like to introduce the candidates to you. First is Pearl Cheng, John Claras, Ben Liao, Gary McCue, and George Tyson. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which encourages active participation of citizens in government and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League never supports or opposes candidates for elective office, but sometimes takes positions on ballot measures. The candidates have drawn for the order of their opening statements. They will be given 3 minutes to make an opening statement. Then we will have questions from the audience. You're encouraged to write out your questions on cards. They will be delivered to me, and I will be asking the questions. I will have a random way of calling on people to answer those questions, and the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each question. If a question is addressed to one particular candidate, that candidate will have a chance to answer first, and then the others will have a chance to answer. And then we will have a 2-minute closing statements from the candidates at the end of the program. So, the person who drew number 1, let me see if I have this right, was George Tyson, right.
Good evening. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come speak with you and give you a sense for my background and my goals. My name is George Tyson. Over the last few weeks, a lot of people have asked me why I'm running for school board, and the more I thought about it, the simpler the question got. I feel that the school board could use leadership, and what I'd like to do is to give you a sense of my own background, my commitment, and have you see what kind of leadership I could provide to this district. I'm a product of our schools. I graduated from Miller and Lynbrook High some 27 years ago. Since then, I went to UC Berkeley and got 2 degrees in engineering from there, and then just recently got an MBA in finance from San Jose State. While I was at Berkeley, I met my wife of 22 years, Stephanie. Stephanie is a 3rd grade teacher at Garden Gate School in the district. This gives me, I think, the teacher's perspective on how the district runs. In addition, we're the parent of 3 children. The oldest, Alex, is in the freshman chemistry major at UC Berkeley. And so I think I have a good parent's perspective on the district as well. For many years, and really for my whole adult life, I've been an active community volunteer. I've been active in Scouts. I've been active for many years in the food bank. For every weekend, I referee soccer games. So I participate in the activities of this community. I've also been active in schools. I've been site council chair for 2 different schools for a total of 3 years. I was also an active a leader of one of the sections of the bond campaign that we just passed successfully back in June. I've also sat on district committees and attended many meetings, giving me a good sense of how the district operates. Now, so far, what have I told you about leadership? Let's turn to my professional background. For 22 years, I've had a career in the chemical and pharmaceutical industry. In that career, I've built teams, I've completed successful capital projects, I've managed people, and done financial analysis, and managed complex negotiations. I think if you add all of that up, I think you can see a pattern of commitment, of involvement, and leadership. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next candidate is Ben Liao.
Good evening. My name is Ben Liao. I'm currently Vice President of the Board of Education for Cupertino Schools. And I thank everyone for coming tonight. And I also like to thank the sponsor, League of Women Voters, AAUW, and the PTA. 4 years ago, I was elected to the Board of Education. I brought with me my personal dedication to public education and also my technical expertise from the high-tech industry. In the last 4 years, we have raised 25% for our teacher and staff salaries. 4 years ago, the initial teacher salary was $31,000. Now it's $41,000. I also using my technical background to bring the infrastructure for the whole school district so that we can have the technology integrated in our schools. 4 years ago, you cannot email to any teacher in our school district. now you can. I also bring a lot of group, our local group, to funding our schools because you know we are the least funded school district in Santa Clara County. I was volunteered in Cupertino Community Services since 4 years ago. I gave the remainder of my fundraising money 4 years ago to Cupertino Community Service and volunteered as a cleaner. Then was a board of director. I give a significant amount to Heart of Cupertino project that's groundbreaking tomorrow morning. And that's going to give us some affordable housing for our teachers, service people, and the staff. In the next 4 years, I will continue to recruit and retain quality teachers because we know that teachers and staff are really essential to our school success. I will also stress to create the best learning environment for all our students. And I have worked with several agencies in the local community, such as School Link in the county that could provide a lot of counselors for our student affairs. And we cannot forget that we are the least funded school district in the county. So we need to push the state to give us more funds so that we can do more things. And I hope through the communication tonight, you can understand the issues we have and knowing my leadership from the school district. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cheng?
I'm excited to be here with you tonight, and I too thank the sponsors for tonight's forum. I've had the honor of serving as a school board trustee for this almost last year when I was appointed to fill a board vacancy. And it's been an exciting year. I have worked together with the board to move us forward on some very, very important topics and very important issues. And I am eager to go forward for a full-term position to continue to move forward on these topics for CUSD. Let me tell you just a little bit about my background and who I am. I was born and raised in the Midwest, actually born a Buckeye and raised a Hawkeye. And as a young girl, I was interested in math and science and was encouraged to study engineering, which I did. And I pursued engineering degrees at the University of Iowa for undergraduate, and then I came out to Stanford University for graduate work, and that's what brought me to the Bay Area. I have lived in the Bay Area now for a little over 20 years, and my husband and I are raising our young family here. I have 2 children, a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, and they are currently attending Collins Elementary. After graduating from Stanford, I joined NASA Ames Research Center as a young engineer, moved up quickly into project management, and then moved again quickly into line management, and most recently as an associate director, where I have helped to manage people of 300 to 600 in quantity and budget figures, budget management of over $100 million. Had a series of dream jobs there, as you can imagine, worked with astronauts, traveled extensively, worked on the Space Lab, space shuttle missions, in developing research programs for NASA missions. But as I went up in the ranks there, I also was trying to really hang on to time that I could devote to community service and to public education with my young kids. Then, timing is everything, they say. When the appointment came along, I did step aside from my 19-year NASA career, and I am devoting full time now to public service. I believe in the importance of public policy and public education. I am devoting full time now to that work. And the work has been more than full-time. As you can imagine, we have done a number of things this past year. I was the co-chair of our successful recent bond measure, Measure C. I have been the board lead on strategic planning, and we are rolling out a number of important meetings with our community. I have been the board representative to the Santa Clara County Board of Education that brings together representatives from all 33 school districts together on a regular basis where we dialogue on regional topics and regional solutions. I have also been a representative to the Special Education Board, the SELPA 2 board. And I also care greatly about our classrooms and teachers. I did go and take the CBEST exam, which is an exam that we require of all of our teachers. Hadn't taken a standardized test in a while and completed that.
Thank
So I
you.
bring to public service a number of qualifications. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And our next candidate, Gary McCue.
Good evening. I'm Gary McCue. Briefly, let me tell you something about my background. My wife and I have one child, a 7th grader, a boy at Miller Middle School, where I'm also a Miller PTA president. I've served our schools for many years, going on 8 years now, in school site councils, on parent-teacher organizations, and on district committees for budget, planning, technology, and facilities. I also help lead the Measure C bond effort. I work as a technical writer, which allows me the flexibility to serve our schools. Over the past 2 years, I've been a steering committee member of the Cupertino Coalition, which advocates fair funding for our school district. You may know that we're the lowest funded district in Santa Clara County and 4th from the bottom in the state. This year, my efforts and the efforts of the coalition paid off, and we got $236,000 in additional equalization funding from the state. That's about 10% of what we would be entitled to if we were funded at the average for the state. This is the first time we've received equalization money in many years, so it represents a start, and it's something that I intend to continue working on as a board member. In fact, I'm the only candidate who has actually pursued additional state funding. I've also worked very hard on facilities over the past many years, and I believe that we now have the resources to meet our remaining facilities needs. In particular, Measure C and the opening of the 5th middle school should give us the classrooms to have a class size reduction in our upper elementary grades. We must now focus our efforts on personnel, especially teachers, and to finding the money we need to hire more teachers and to keep the ones we have. I went to Sacramento last year for Teacher Action Day, which ultimately resulted in an 11% pay raise for our teachers, which represents half of the pay raise over the past 4 years. So I will continue to work for comparable salaries. We must also find workable housing solutions, ones that will allow our teachers to live in one city and work in another, as many of our teachers already do. Last year, we hired 142 new teachers, which represents about a 20% turnover, and we lose half of our teachers every 5 years. We must reverse this trend, and I've got some ideas on how this can be accomplished. Finally, 2 years ago, I ran for school board on a platform that emphasized maintaining our high standards, supporting our teachers, and listening to our community. These are still my priorities, and we need to continue to ensure that we have accountability and dialogue in every decision-making process. So I look forward to your questions tonight about school finance, teacher support, and accountability and any other issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And John Claras.
My name's John Claras, and I want to thank you all for coming out tonight. Why am I running? I'm running primarily, as Ben has brought up, we are an underfunded district. Even though our test scores are comparable to districts such as Saratoga and Palo Alto, we get considerably less money. And I think that's a very important issue, one, on how well the school district is run. It's run fairly well. But without the proper resources, we cannot achieve what our ultimate goals are, which is the best education for our children. There's other factors as well for people who don't have children. The property values of the Cupertino area are considerably higher because of the school district. High schools, high property values. One of the things I want to see is I'd like to look for money from various sources, one from federal, state, and also local. One of the things we're going to have to look at and we're going to have to discuss is the aspect of a parcel tax. The state government's going to be going through some very fiscally difficult times, and it's going to be difficult to pry money out of the state. They're going to start seeing deficits because of the slowing economy, as well as because of the electricity crisis. But it's important that we keep in mind that The quality of our schools not only benefits those of us with children, but also benefits the community as well. My background is I've had general management background for over 20 years. I own my own company. I started out in the aerospace industry, working for a large aerospace concern, managed multi-million-dollar projects. I've done everything from engineering to training to all aspects of that. I have 2 kids. My oldest boy is going to be starting school this fall at Montclair. And I have 3 college degrees. I have a master's degree in finance, a bachelor's degree in management, and a bachelor's degree in engineering. What I want to focus on, I want to have a fairly narrow focus if I'm elected, is to get the funding primarily on par with the other districts that we compete against and see if we can't get those funds. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll take a break of just a couple of minutes for you in the audience to write your questions on cards. There'll be people walking up and down with the cards, and then turn them into them, and we will continue with asking the questions.
Voter apathy is a problem in the United States. Kids Voting, a program that educates students from grades K through 12 on the importance of democracy, is trying to change all that.
Kids Voting's goal is to mimic the official election process as much as possible. We don't want to become a mock election that means nothing. We want to, mimic the official process. It's just a really empowering experience. I've been able to observe some of the precincts, and when the child receives that "I voted" sticker, on the lapel, a smile lights up. It's an exciting, empowering experience for a child that they just made a contribution to their, to democracy. I don't know about you, but I know when I turned 18, I had no training on how to vote. We're taught how to drive. We're taught about safe sex, but we're never taught how to participate in democracy. We learn about the system and the structure of the system, but not how to participate, not how to understand the initiatives, not how to filter through all the media and better understand what the core issues are, not how to learn about the candidates and the channels to learn more about the candidates. So we're not provided with those tools in school. So that's another part of what we're trying to do, is provide those tools so children know the avenues they can take to learn more about participating in democracy. And when they turn 18, they're not intimidated by the process. It comes natural to them.
The Kids Vote program teaches kids more than how the democratic process works. Independent studies show that participating students tend to volunteer more, tend to do better in school, and even tend to participate in more group activities.
In regards to what I feel is the most valuable contribution, if you will, from Kids Voting, is the fact that we are preparing future generations to participate in democracy. And again, as I stated earlier, the fact that the United States of America is ranked 139th in voter participation. We have an average of, it fluctuates between 30 and 45% voter turnout. Something needs to be done. And my philosophy that is shared with Kids Voting is a ground-up approach. Start with the children and have them educated through their childhood that it is their responsibility to participate in democracy and to get out and vote. When they turn 18, it will become second nature to them. They will just get out and do it.
For further information on the Kids Voting program, contact Executive Director Justin Trin-Halperin at 287-3598. On Tuesday, November 6, Cupertino residents will vote for 3 of the 6 candidates running for City Council. Tune into the City Channel throughout the month of October for Meet the Candidates, giving you an opportunity to become familiar with the 6 candidates running for City Council. For more information on election programming, log on to the city's website at www.cupertino.org. And remember, your vote can make a difference.
what will be your greatest contribution or focus for the next 4 years for the Cupertino Union School District in one sentence? I'll give you a second. And let's start with Pearl Cheng.
What I'd like to do is really expand the bases of all of our partnerships in the school district. And what that means to me is it's on various levels. I want to expand partnerships in the classrooms, building in all of the families and parents into the classroom. We are all participants in the product of our students. Building participation and partnership with our teacher and staff force to really have focused dialogue on issues together. And partnerships with our local community and industry as well to really work together on building a strong public education foundation for the community.
Thank you. Gary McCue?
Basically, we need to provide the best learning environment, and the way to do that is to increase funding, which will lead to more teachers and lower class sizes.
Okay. George Tyson?
I will focus on the support and retention of teachers through the activities that help their curriculum development and sense of worth and workload management in the district.
John Claras?
Funding. I'd like to see funding on par with the other top districts within the state.
And Ben Liao?
Raising the bar for our school district. We are an excellent school district. We need to raise the bar. We need to recruit and retain qualified teachers. We need to integrate our community resources like the technology into it. We also need to work in with other groups in the community so that we can bring the resources, the funding to our school district. Thank you.
Okay. The next question is addressed to Gary McCue, so we'll let you answer first, and if the others want to answer, I'm going to call in the random order. This random order, every time I have to do this, I think I'm going to make up a computer program that'll do this for me, but instead I sit there doing this. You know, the purpose is to not have the same person follow the same person each time and let everyone have a chance to be first, second, third, fourth. So, Gary McCue, what is the school board doing to help the CUSD teacher with affordable housing?
Well, I actually don't know exactly what the school board is doing because I don't think that they have actually gotten involved in the equation very much. I do know that they attempted or did hire a half-time person to coordinate programs, but really what the school board needs to do is do some more advocacy in Sacramento, particularly on mortgage assistance, and also working within the county so that each of our school districts, so that each of our cities can share. For example, Cupertino has a very good program for housing. Unfortunately, there are not very many housing units, so teachers can't live in Cupertino. But if they live in Sunnyvale and work in Cupertino, we need some kind of program that takes care of them.
Okay. George Tyson, do you wish to answer this question?
Yes, I would. I think many of you may be aware of the recent success that Santa Clara had with developing housing at reduced rents that was accessible to the teachers. But, you know, I've talked to a lot of teachers, and I would say there's a strong feeling that what they want isn't a teacher ghetto, a special housing for teachers. I think what teachers want is a fair salary that allows them to choose where they want to live. And I think that that's a better direction for us to head. I'm not saying I reject these thoughts of a low-income housing accessibility, but I'm wary of them.
Okay. Pearl Cheng?
As you know, Cupertino serves families in 6 different cities, and what we have been doing is partnering with those cities to look at housing assistance and or the accessibility of teachers applying for housing that is available in their cities. At the county level as well, this is back to my partnership theme, we are looking for regional solutions also to affordable housing, such things as a locality pay type concept, and or again housing assistance for this very expensive valley that we are living in. So we are making progress. Again, the partnership aspect is an important one for us, and working with the legislators, of which we know many of them. They come from our local areas now, and working with them on solutions together.
Okay. Ben Liao?
We have worked hard on affordable housing for the teachers and staff. I'm on the board of directors for Cupertino Community Services, and since 4 years ago, City of Cupertino has provided 10% of the new development to the teachers and staff and service people. I don't think those affordable housing are ghettos. If you look at the San Jose DOC project, the house was going for $1.2 million, and the affordable housing providing them to buy it for $250,000. If you can call $1.2 million housing is ghetto, we are all live in ghettos. And we have been working with Silicon Valley Manufacturing Group, City of San Jose, City of Cupertino, City of Sunnyvale, that we all work together to provide an affordable housing for our service people and teachers, because everyone needs to have somewhere that they feel comfortable not only to work in, but to live in. And we are a strong and cohesive community. We need to work together to allow our people, our service people, our teachers, and our staff to live in your community. That's the goal of a school board member. Thank you.
And John Claras?
Unfortunately, or fortunately, we live in an extremely expensive area. And part of it is due to the success of our manufacturing infrastructure. They've done very well, which has driven houses up very high. And unfortunately, you have a lot of service people whose salaries don't come with stock options and so forth, which put them out of whack with regard to the housing needs. The way, realistically, that I see to solve the problem is one of two ways. One, we definitely need more funding so we can raise teachers' salaries. So, as George brought up, they can have some choices. But I also like the idea of having subsidies such as apartment buildings and so forth, actually purchasing those and offering them at lower rates to teachers. A lot of the teachers are younger. They tend to be single. Apartment life is very attractive. So there are different ways to attack it and that can be looked at. But we have to be careful on both. There's a lot of legal issues. As a former landlord, there's a lot of legal issues to owning those types of properties and so forth. But we do need to look at that, because it's getting to the point with a teacher's salary such as ours that realistically you have to live beyond the East Bay. You'd have to live out in Tracy to be able to afford a house. And that's just plain wrong.
Thank you. And as we go on to our next question, where do you plan to seek money to equalize the district's funding? So it's a funding question. Let's start with Ben Liao.
The majority of our funding, almost 70%, came from state. So our first priority is working with the states, try to make sure that they don't forget us. We are the least funded school district in Santa Clara County. We also getting a lot of special education money from the federal. 1975, we have the Individual Disability Act that the federal government promised that they will give us 40% of the special education budget. For 25 years, they never funded us more than 15% of the money. We need to work on that too. But I told you earlier, we are living in a very supportive community. We have Cupertino Community Services that providing a lot of funding to not only our schools, but also our community. We also have a lot of service club that give us a lot of funding. 2 years ago, we opened an Eaton school. We didn't have a funding for library. They come up with $35,000 to give us a library. We also have Cupertino Educational Foundation. And they give us $2.6 million in the last 4 years to provide us the art and music program and technology. So those are the resources we can use not only in the state, in the federal, but also in our local community. And I really, I cannot say more, but appreciation to our community members that they can just give up and say, I'm moving out of here. No, they stay here and supporting our schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you. John Claras?
I think we have to look at all sources. I agree with Ben. We need to start with federal government and look at unfunded mandates. We also need to look at the state and see if we can get our fair share of funding. We also need to talk to corporations whose employees benefit tremendously. And finally, we have to talk to ourselves and look at local taxpayers. From a realistic standpoint, the federal government's going to be tied up with the war. They're not going to be terribly interested in unfunded mandates for a singular school district. As I said earlier, the state is going to be looking into large budget deficits. We can politic with them, but every district that's getting surplus funds or more funds than we are is going to be politicking against us. Corporations for the next 9 months to a year are not going to be terribly receptive, though I think in the long run we can get a great deal of grants and funds from companies who have a large portion of their employees with us. The bottom line is I think we have to look at a parcel tax. And we have to look at a targeted parcel tax that will go to essentially teacher salaries. And that we guarantee that those monies will go for teacher salaries and benefits toward them so that we can have the retention and also we can have the best quality teachers we can possibly find.
Thank you. Gary McCue?
So I believe the question is about equalization funding.
The question is, where do you plan to seek money to equalize the district's funding?
Okay. So the question is about equalization funding, and the answer is this is a state issue and it's caused by historical reasons. But the solution is to get our $236,000, the state paid all the underfunded school districts a total of $40 million. To get our fair share up to the state average, which would be about $2.4 million, the state would have to come up with about $400 million. Well, $400 million sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't if you look at the entire state budget. Now, I didn't say that the task will be easy, but the task is certainly a doable task. 2 years ago, lots of people said, you aren't going to get any equalization dollars, and don't bother trying. But we tried, and now we've got some. So we need to keep working on this, and we will succeed. Thank you.
George Tyson?
Well, since the issue isn't really funding in general, but the equalization, I think Gary hit the nail on the head in terms of the state's role. Last year, along with some other folks here, I had the ability to be on the Budget Advisory Committee in the district. And the Budget Advisory Committee is a group of volunteers. Well, the parents and community members are volunteers, and there are principals and teachers involved as well. And what we do is we look at the budget and we tear it apart and then come up with the recommendations to the superintendent and the board what to do with it. And I can tell you that as a district, we spend around $95 to $97 million a year, and over 80% of that comes from the state. So clearly it points to the state. Now, if you were to go back and look in the back table at my flyer, which I do encourage you to do, on the back you'll find some endorsements, and even since then I've added a few. Now, what's the point of that? If the issue is how can we have an influence over the state legislatures, over the last few months then I've gotten the endorsement of 2 of our congressmen, 2 assembly members, 1 senator, a number of city people, a number of people in other districts. And I would say that it's those kinds of skills that I'd like to project and to help this district achieve that kind of funding success. See, I didn't ever help any of them on their campaigns. I never gave them any money. It was the strength of the message that encouraged them to endorse me. And it's the strength of our fairness issue that I hope to bring those funds back to our district.
Thank you. And Pearl Cheng?
The state just added its 1,000th school district. So when we talk about equalization funding, we are the fourth from the bottom out of those 1,000 school districts. It is a state issue. We must continue to work with our state legislators, as I mentioned to you, although what we are seeing at the state level in terms of education dollar allotment is that much of the money that goes forth from the state legislature to education comes as mandates to particular programs. And a lot of what the state has done is looked at the low-performing districts and really tried to boost them up, as you would expect, to really get our general level higher on the education front. That's a reality. We must continue to work vigilantly with the legislators. Now, if we look ahead and continue to see the budget revenue declining, we also need to take a message to our legislators to say, hey, do not, if you're looking to cut education funds, do not cut the fourth lowest district as much as you might cut some of the other school districts in the state. That's a message we must take forward too. Then there are, of course, prudent fiscal management steps that we must take internally to ensure that we are maximizing our assets to all degrees, that we can again maximize benefit to all of the programs that we have control over in our local jurisdiction. So again, multi-pronged, somewhat complex. We can go with the message strongly to our state legislature, but we need to realize the context of where we are today.
Thank you. The next question is regarding a conflict of interest. Would there be a perceived conflict of interest if Mr. Tyson is elected to the board of the district where his wife works, especially during contract negotiation time? And Mr. Tyson, we'll let you answer first.
I recognize there is a perceived conflict of interest, and I'd like to address that answer on two fronts. There's really the emotional front, and then there's really more of the contractual business part. In terms of the business front, I've met with the district, with the superintendent, who has consulted with the district lawyer to make sure that it was clear to me what sorts of issues would I have to excuse myself, and they are very limited. They would involve discipline of my wife. They would also limit my wife from becoming an administrator. She's currently a third grade teacher at Garden Gate Elementary. Another step that I've taken is another board member of a different district, the Fremont district, is in the exact same situation. And I've sat down and consulted with him to find out how did he manage this situation to make sure that he was able to hold things separate and keep them apart. Now, as I move more toward the emotional side of it, I've been a business leader for many years. I've had to keep many confidential things secret for many years. I do complex negotiations with other companies at high levels with their senior management. I think that I have the strength to be able to hold the interests of the greater district apart from, rather than create any situation where there's preference to the teachers. And I trust my wife to be just as strong and to keep herself from feeling influenced. I think it's critical to be able to accomplish that, and I feel very comfortable that that won't be an issue. See, the flip side of this is, what do we gain by this? What we gain is I have a first-hand, day-to-day knowledge of what's going on in the classrooms, and I think that that's of tremendous value, and I think that would create greater insights into how we can make this district better, rather than third-hand kinds of impressions of how things really work in these schools.
Thank you. Mr. Liao, do you wish to address this issue?
I believe legally, like Mr. Tyson says, there are some issues, but it's only related to personnel or some contractual issues. And I think I would like to encourage everyone to participate, because the board member is really a service to the community. And it's only pay you $400 per month, but you have to pay in times. For myself, almost 20 hours per week, because you have to do school visits, you have a lot of activities. Actually, last year, I spent my wife's birthday, my daughter's birthday, and my own birthday in Board of Education room. So if you think that we should exclude someone not running for the Board of Education, I think you better think of yourself. So I think we should encourage everyone to run for Board of Education because education is top of our priorities. And for legal issues, I think Mr. Tyson has knowledge about when to avoid the issues. And I think Mrs. Tyson the same way too. I really encourage everyone to participate, and this one should not be the exclusion of some of the members of our community. So, thank you.
Mr. Claras?
I have to agree. I think with those two exceptions, I don't see any conflict of interest. All of us have issues and so forth, which at times may cause us to have to bow out of a decision. I own some stocks in companies that I'm sure do work with the districts. If those decisions came up and I owned a sufficient amount, I would have to bow out. But I think George has disclosed it. I don't think it's an issue whatsoever.
Ms. Cheng?
As an executive manager at NASA, I always requested of my employees to watch very carefully and to recuse themselves from decisions that would put them in a conflict of interest situation, whether it was a family tie, stock options, stock ownership, and to watch those guidelines. As a fellow board member, I would seek those similar guidelines and really ask someone to work with high integrity and make good judgment calls. And I think Mr. Tyson has actually pursued that already as he's coming forward to run on the community's behalf, and I think he would carry that forward well.
And Mr. McCue?
Can I call you George? I don't think there would be any conflict of interest, but maybe I could just take a moment to, point out that as board members, we need to hold ourselves up to a higher standard than the community at large. And so we need to be very careful in everything we do to make sure that as we make resource decisions, that we are making them based on the best needs of all children and not on the needs of particular children. And so I'll just add that as, thank you.
Thank you. This is going to be the last question before the closing statements. I may have misspoke earlier. The closing statements will be 2 minutes. 2 minutes, okay? All right, this is the last question. How are you going to handle our district diversity issue? And let's start with John Claras.
Diversity in any community is always a very touchy issue. Cupertino's gone through some very radical changes in the time I've lived here. I've lived in the Cupertino district for over 22 years. I went to Palo Alto schools. The Bay Area has changed radically in the time since I grew up. And I think one of the important things that we do is make sure that the lines of communication are open to all the folks. And I think the most important thing that we can teach the children is compassion and empathy. I think if you think about it, all morality comes from those two words, in the sense that if you can have compassion and empathy for another person, you can have an appreciation of who and what they are. And I think that's the important thing to do with all the groups, and also to make sure that we address all the needs of the groups as best as possible. We have an extremely diverse but also very rich community, and I think it's important to involve everyone.
Ms. Cheng.
CUSD does reflect the demographic change that we're seeing here right in Silicon Valley before us, and it's very exciting to me, I will tell you. We have represented multiple backgrounds and languages and various cultures that our children and families bring into our schools. And we are all part of this community, and we need to participate and work together. And that really comes together in a very, very grand way in a classroom each and every day. At my own school, we just celebrated and completed an international night event, and it was beautiful. We had many performances by various children and families from all different backgrounds, and it was a celebration of actual valuing and seeking to understand one another. And I would look to us to really celebrate that on a continuing basis and celebrate that too through our staff and our teachers. And I think they do that through some exciting curriculum that they are bringing forward to the classroom each and every day. And these are important pieces that in our world tomorrow, we will be multicultural. And I want my children to just really be appreciative of that very, very much.
Thank you. Gary McCue?
Can you repeat the question one more time?
Sure. How are you going to handle our district diversity issue?
I think one of the things that I'm going to address in my closing remarks is that we need to make sure that we have lots of tolerance for each other. One thing is we really need to know each other better and really want to know each other better. And my final comment is we need to celebrate our uniqueness, but we need to work together.
Mr. Liao?
Living in Silicon Valley, especially working in high-tech industry, we can see creativity came from the ideas, and we need to celebrate the diversity of our community. That's where making our community strong. I believe that only single ideas or single voice doesn't represent the best of our community. I went to the last performance of San Jose Symphony before it closed down. And if you look at the symphony, the orchestra, you don't see just one instrument. With one instrument, you can only do duet or quartet. You cannot making the beautiful music of a symphony. So we need to celebrate the diversity so that we can make the best of our community. And we are a strong and cohesive community. And we need to celebrate the diversity so that we can creatively working toward our goal is to provide the best learning environment, not only for our students, but for all the people in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Tyson?
Well, we've heard some wonderful things about diversity just now, and I wholeheartedly support these comments. What I'd like to do is to give you just a little insight into me, because diversity is one of those things that it's easy to have good intentions, but it's harder to bring it into practice. So let me tell you about my department at ALSA. I work at a pharmaceutical company. I'm executive director of a department of about 50 people. And in that department, I have a number of people, all of them managers and directors, that report to me. And those people include a Filipino woman, a black male, a gay male, a retired Air Force colonel, a Caucasian male, a Hispanic female, and a Caucasian female who breeds miniature horses. And all of those people, except for the horse lover, have something in common, and that is I hired them and I brought them into this department and this company. And as proud as I am of that diversity, I'm even more proud of the fact that we're seen as an excellent, outstanding department. We won an award at the end of last year for cost savings. We're seen as effective. We work well together. We pull from all of these strengths, and those are the kinds of things I'd like to encourage and bring about in our district.
Thank you. And now I'm going to give you a moment to focus on your thoughts for your closing statements, what you want to leave with the voters. I will tell you that I'm going to go in the reverse order to your opening statements, and I hope I have the numbers down right. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay? 2 minutes. John Claras.
I want to thank you again for coming out to see us. My basic premise that I want to get across is how underfunded we are. We are indeed one of the bottom districts in the state. We have to keep in mind that there's two things we have to accomplish by increasing the funding. One is to improve the education of our children, and also to maintain our high property values. Both of those are very pragmatic. I think from a realistic standpoint, we're going to have to look at local taxes. I think it's going to be extremely difficult politically to approach the state when they are going to have severe deficits as one of the districts that is performing very well with very little money. I think also it's going to be difficult with the federal government. Not that we shouldn't try, we should go at them as hard as we possibly can. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be us that is going to have to pass the funding. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Gary McCue?
I would like to quote the words of one of my heroes, Bobby Kennedy, who often said, "Some men see things as they are and say, why? I dream of things that never were and say, why not?" Now I dream and say, why can't we have fair funding? Why can't our schools lead the nation in innovation and responsiveness to the needs of our children? And why can't our teachers live in our neighborhoods? I believe that with the persistence, the dedication, and commitment that I've shown these past 8 years, that these things can happen. We must stay focused on funding. We must stay focused on teacher support. And we truly must stay focused on the real learning that takes place in our classrooms every day. We must not be sidetracked by economic uncertainty and doubt. We must remind ourselves throughout this difficult period that what we value the most is our children, and we must do our very best to help prepare them for the future. I've always been a firm believer in public education as our best chance to make America a stronger and more tolerant nation. And I will do everything in my power to strengthen our schools for the benefit of all children. Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th. Your choice will affect the priorities of the district over the next 4 years. I hope that everyone will exercise their patriotic duty, patriotic right, and vote on November 6th. I would very much appreciate your vote. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Pearl Cheng?
I care deeply about education and how it sets a strong foundation for a strong community. It has been said that children represent only a portion of our population, but we also know that they are 100% of our future, and I care deeply about that future. And my professional and personal life experiences have provided a breadth of skills that I bring to public service. I bring leadership experience from my work as a manager of a large, complex organization at NASA. I have a collaborative leadership style. I have worked with unions, I have managed large budgets, and I know how to manage and develop people and set strategic goals. My experience on the board has also been extensive, and I have worked with energy and compassion, and I have full knowledge of the issues and have been proactive in keeping activities moving forward. I also bring passion to public service, passion on behalf of public education. I went and took the CBEST exam, and I will be there as a substitute teacher as I have time to really help fill in at the classroom level and stay really connected to the grassroots to really know how our children and families are doing. I have been endorsed by a broad range of legislators, some 30 of them or more, who will have a large impact on our funding situation and priorities as we move forward as a board. I also bring full-time devotion to public service. I have committed full-time to this, and I will continue to do so. I have an extremely supportive family. I am out walking precincts now, and it is really just exciting. We are all in this together. We are all together in building a strong community, and that's what public service is all about. So, thank you.
Thank you. And Ben Liao?
As a community, we have come a long way. We are the best school in California, but we need to raise the bar. We want the best learning environment for all our children, but I cannot do this alone. I need your help. We need to work together. 4 years ago, I brought my personal best and my dedication to public education to the board. I think I want to be the best in education. We can bring our children the best learning environment, even though if we can make difference only in one child's life. Today, I want more. I want all of our children to experience the best learning environment possible. This is a long way that we have gone through, and we need to continue to promote best teacher for our school district. We need to integrate technology into our school district. You have seen 4 years of proven records, and I hope we can continue to work together as a community, because the best learning environment, not only from the school, but it also including a strong and cohesive community members. 4 years of proven record prove to me that we can work together. And I believe that I'm the best candidate for the school board. So I promise to you, I will commit to bringing all major improvements. On November 6th, please come out and vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And George Tyson.
Thanks again for hosting this wonderful event. I think it's so timely that we have a chance to embark upon an election as we look at all these flags and remind ourselves of what's special about this country. We haven't been here this long tonight, but I hope that I've given you a sense of a little bit of my background, but perhaps more importantly, how do I think? What am I like to work with? Could I function well with this board? How about other boards in the cities? And I hope that I've given you the sense that I have the leadership skills that would bring that about. And I also want to urge you to join Congressman Mike Honda, Congressmember Anna Eshoo, State Senator Byron Scher, Assemblymember Rebecca Cohn, Assemblymember Elaine Alquist, Sandy James, the Mayor of Cupertino, Rich Lowenthal, the Vice Mayor of Cupertino, a number of former CUSD board members, several board members of other school districts, and over 15 current and former parent-teacher organization presidents in supporting my campaign. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, candidates, for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you, audience, for your questions. Remember, there's more information in the lobby, and you can get more information on the web about these candidates at www.smartvoter.org. We'll now take a break while we bring in the candidates for the Cupertino City Council. Thank you.